What's up, friends? It's your boy Durosai, and today we are going to be looking at the Elektron Digitakt. So I've had this thing for about 2-3 months, been using it quite frequently, and I'm just gonna talk about what I think about it and show you guys some of my favorite features that make it worth the purchase. But before that, leave a little like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram, and check out some of my music. Alright, let's get into it. So the Elektron Digitakt is my first Elektron machine. All their stuff really intrigued me. I've never used any of it, but all like the videos that I saw, people making stuff on it all sounded really nice, so I wanted one of these. This is like their mid-tier sort of product. You know, above this you got like the octotrack and the analog 4, which are really cool devices, but they're a little out of my price range. They're like $1,500 or something like that. This is half the price, $749. They got some stuff below it, but this thing really caught my eye. It's a 8-track or 8-voice drum computer and sampler. So you have 8 like drum voices as well as 8 MIDI tracks that you can sample 8 synths with. So that was really cool. I have the Arturia beatstep sitting in front of me that can sequence 2 synths and 1 drum machine, and I have like 1 drum machine and like 4 synths. So I was already kind of limited by that Arturia, but this really opens me up to sequence a lot of gear. So that's also why I got this, besides the fact of it just having a lot of capabilities in terms of sampling and its sequencer and stuff, which I will get into. So starting with the outside of the device, you know, this thing is like built like a tank. I love, you know, just hear that like solid metal. I could probably drop it and it'll be fine. I'm not gonna do that on camera, sorry. You know, we got these nice keys here, very mechanical feel. I like that. They're not velocity sensitive, unfortunately, but it's not a big deal to me because I don't really play stuff on the device. I like to just, you know, punch it in, sequence it. You know, on the back we got pretty standard I/O, like left, right inputs, outputs, headphone jack, MIDI in, out through USB, power switch. So good stuff there. So for me, I always had this idea that Elektron devices were very intensive on like the menu diving side and memorizing button combos and stuff like that. But honestly, the Digitakt has been a really easy machine to use. It's very intuitive, straightforward. Like I watched one video. There's one by True Cuckoo. He has like an 1.5 hour long video that just goes over pretty much most of the features that you need to know. And I mean, I just watched it once and I pretty much memorized everything that I need to know. Everything is like laid out, or labeled, should I say. Like there's yellow text for when you press down the function key, and then otherwise the gray text is just, you know, what the buttons do. And so you can figure out everything fairly quickly. So something that makes this even easier to use is Overbridge 2.0, which is Elektron's way of interfacing with your DAW. So essentially, the Digitakt will appear as a plugin that you can drag onto a MIDI track into your DAW, and you can manipulate all the parameters on here. You can do that in your DAW, and then you sequence it on here. And the really cool thing is it'll not only sync to your DAW, but also send audio over USB. For me, that was a super key feature because I don't have a ton of space on my audio interface, and I hate having to like unplug synths and plug other gear back in because it just takes away from the creative process. So audio over USB just allows it to be just connected all the time. It's also, you know, super high quality because it's just digital audio. And you can also multi-track, which means all the 8 individual tracks can be recorded on a separate channel. The only downside is that the effects, like the reverb and the delay, are on the master bus, so they won't be recorded if you're recording an individual channel. You'll have to record the master output, but you know, you can't have everything. So while the Digitakt is a very fast machine to use, I still really hate the process of going through my sample library that's stored on there and like adding all the samples, because it just takes a lot of time. But with Overbridge, I can do that on the computer, which is a lot quicker than navigating that on the device. Not really because of the device's like limitations, it's just that for that a computer is a lot faster. But then I do all my sequencing and manipulating the parameters and all that. I do it on the device itself. And what I found was really nice was that Overbridge synced the Digitakt pretty well to the DAW. Usually if I'm sending like my clock out from my interface, there's always like a insane latency and I always have to correct for it, but the plugin like automatically corrects for the latency, which is super helpful. Like I hate having to correct for that, and it's like so annoying because every time you add a plugin you're adding latency. So this does all the delay compensation for you, so it keeps it fairly on time, and that is like a lifesaver in the studio because you don't want to be wasting time doing like all this unnecessary stuff that's not resulting in you making music. So let's talk about what Elektron is really known for, and that is their god tier sequencer. This thing is incredible. Super powerful workhorse in the studio and live, but I'd say mainly in the studio. So what makes this super special is that you can change any of the parameters per step, per the 64 steps, including the sample. That's where the magic really happens, because you are not limited to just 8 drum tracks, because you can change the sample per step. So all you're really limited to is the amount of samples you can store in one project, and that'd be 128 samples, which is a whole lot. Honestly, I haven't been able to fill up that much for a single project, just because, I mean, at that point you're just dealing with so many samples and it gets too much. I think the max I've done is like 80. So with that, the thing is, it's really a curse and a blessing, because on one hand you have like endless possibilities in terms of automating like all these parameters and sounds and making a very dynamic evolving groove. But the downside of that is you can spend like hours on this thing, and that's probably been the hardest part about integrating this into my workflow, is that all the gear I have now, which if I look to my right, I have a TR8, Moog Minitaur, TB03, Model D, and an Electribe ER1, all of which are fairly simple, I'd say, devices. Like I know what their capabilities are, all except for the ER1. That's a little bit on the crazy side, but they're all pretty straightforward and they do very specific things, and I don't have to spend too much time on them. There's maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes even less. But with this, you get the most out of this device if you spend a long time on it, because just because of how good the sequencer is, you can just spend hours automating every single step, adding these like little tiny effects, and then changing the sample on each step, adding fills, all that sort of stuff. You can really end up spending a long time on here. So the way I have started using this is just building out like almost entire songs, or at least entire drum grooves on here, before actually going into my DAW and recording it. Because if I use this more as like a traditional drum machine, which is I punch out a pattern, record it, punch out another pattern, record it, I'm not really fully utilizing the capability of what this machine can do. So a couple smaller features that I really like on here is, one, the LFO. So you can actually assign that to essentially any parameter on here. So that just gives you another level of variation that you can add to your sound. Another cool thing is that there is an overdrive per channel. So I find that really nice on low frequencies, especially like kicks and bass. Not to say that it doesn't sound good on highs, but I think it really fattens up that low end. Matter of fact, I might as well show you. Alright, so let me just quickly show you this overdrive. Got this kick playing, turn it on. Standard kick. This is one of the stock samples that comes with it. It's actually a pretty nice kick, pretty like punchy. And now got this overdrive. Let me just increase the decay a little bit. Now I'll crunch this up. Yeah, like that's a techno kick right there. Really, it's got a lot of like harmonics, and it's got that sort of top end sparkle too. And the cool thing is, so if you want to do like that techno rumble, you could turn up the delay. Boom. Yeah. Now you got that rolling techno rumble, and then you can go into the delay settings, adjust the filter, so you can like bring that down. Maybe bring the feedback up. You can even put some reverb, but don't want to do that. But yeah, that's like just some of the stuff you can do. Love that overdrive. Let me try putting it on a different sample. Let's see. Let's turn this down. It's so loud. Oh, yeah, let's try that. So now let's crank it up. Yeah, I love that. Great for them bass sounds. Maybe decrease the cutoff. Play with the filter. And boom, now you got like a nice like bass stab, kind of like an 808-ish kind of thing. So the Digitakt does come with a lot of stock sounds. So there's a lot of drums, everything from natural, like realistic drums, all the way to distorted, electronic, FM-y sort of drums. So there's actually a huge variety. I think probably I'd say there's like maybe a couple, like 100 to 150 drums in here. I'm still going through those stock sounds, and I find them to be pretty amazing. They're all super high quality, really well recorded, and there's like I said, a huge variety, so I think it fits a lot of different genres. There's also like noise samples, waveforms, and also like stabs and synth sounds as well that you can use, which I'm not a huge fan of the synthy sounds. They're okay. They don't really they're not to say that there aren't like some really good ones in there, but I think for me I really love the drum sounds that are in here. Something that I don't like about this is that there's no expandable storage. You are limited to the 1 gig of internal memory on here, and you might think, man, 1 gig doesn't sound like a lot, and you're right, it's not. Granted, this isn't really meant to play back super long samples. You're best loading shorter samples in here anyways, so you will be able to load a lot of samples in here before running out of memory, but the expandable storage would have been a really nice perk. I don't know why they didn't include just like a little SD card slot, but so far I haven't run out of storage, so that's good. Well, those are my thoughts on the Elektron Digitakt. If you haven't checked out my Single Synth Sessions episode 5 video, go look at that, because I did a solo jam with just the Digitakt, so you can see what it's capable of. Yeah, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, check out my music, and as always, stay safe, stay creative, and peace out. See ya.